The stars glittered like diamonds in the cold, dark space as the spaceship sped toward its destination. Inside, Captain Aria Vulpine sat quietly, her sharp amber eyes scanning the ship's controls. She was a warrior, trained to fight, survive, and win. But nothing in her long years of battle had prepared her for what was about to happen. Aria's ship was traveling through deep space, far from any known galaxy, when something unexpected occurred. The alarm blared, signaling that a ship had been detected nearby. This wasn't unusual. Pirate ships often roamed these parts, looking for easy targets. However, this ship wasn't a pirate ship. It was a human vessel. Aria's hand instinctively moved to her weapon as she stared at the screen. The ship was damaged. She could see it on the scanner. The energy signatures were weak, flickering like a dying star. This wasn't an attack. It was a distress signal. Without hesitation, Aria ordered her crew to prepare for landing. She was a warrior, but her honor would not allow her to ignore a distress call. Landing on the surface of a barren planet, Aria led a small team to investigate. What they found was a scene unlike anything Aria had seen before. A human soldier, badly wounded, lay on the cold, rocky ground. His uniform was torn, his face pale, and covered in blood. There was no time to waste. Aria's team rushed to help him, but as they lifted him into their ship, the soldier's eyes opened briefly. "Protect ... Him," the soldier whispered weakly, his voice barely audible. Aria's heart tightened. Who was he? Why had he been abandoned in such a desolate place? But before she could ask any more questions, the ship's engines roared to life, and they were headed back to the alien world where she came from. Unbeknownst to Aria, a powerful and dangerous alien faction had witnessed the rescue. The alien world she called home was known for its warrior traditions, and the news of a wounded human being brought to their planet spread like wildfire. In the vast arenas of this alien empire, battles were fought for glory, and the greatest of these were held in the ancient tournament that took place once every century. Only the strongest, the bravest, and the most skilled warriors could enter. And now, a new challenge had arrived. Aria, a renowned champion, had saved the human soldier, but the tournament's leaders saw something different. They saw an opportunity. If she could fight in the tournament and win, the human soldier would be theirs. The alien leaders did not care about the soldier's injuries or his history. They only cared about the prize. The tournament, known for its brutal and unforgiving nature, was open to all beings of the galaxy. It was not just a test of strength, but of strategy, endurance, and determination. Each year, the finest warriors from across the universe gathered to compete for the ultimate honor, to win the rare and coveted prize that could grant them unimaginable power. But this year, things were different. The human soldier, fragile and barely alive, had become the key to everything. And now, the tournament was about to begin. Aria, caught between her duty to protect the soldier and the deadly allure of the tournament, found herself at the center of a web she could not escape. The challenge wasn't just about survival, it was about choosing whether to fight for the right reasons or to play the game of power. With the wounded human soldier still in her care, Aria had no choice but to prepare for what lay ahead. She knew that this was no ordinary tournament. In the coming days, she would face the fiercest warriors in the galaxy. She would fight not just for herself but for the human who had no voice, no power, and no choice in the matter. As she trained in the shadows, Aria couldn't help but wonder if the outcome of the tournament would be as simple as victory or defeat. Would she save the soldier, or would she become just another pawn in a larger game she didn't fully understand? The answers she knew would come only when the battles began, but for now, all she could do was prepare. The tournament loomed, and the world she had known would never be the same again. The ancient arena stood tall, its massive stone walls echoing the sounds of 1,000 battles fought over centuries. The crowd, a mix of alien species, roared with excitement as they gathered to witness the beginning of the legendary tournament. In the center of it all stood Captain Aria Vulpine, her orange fur-like hair flowing in the wind, her amber eyes sharp and focused. She stood with a sense of purpose, her body and mind prepared for what lay ahead. Around her were the other participants, fierce warriors from all corners of the galaxy, each one vying for victory. Some were towering giants, others were lithe and quick, their movements almost too fast to follow. Each had their own reason for entering the tournament. Some sought fame, others sought power, and a few sought something far darker. But for Aria, there was only one reason she had come: the wounded human soldier she had rescued. The soldier lay in a medical chamber inside the ship, unconscious, his condition critical. Aria's thoughts were with him constantly. She had promised to protect him, but now she faced an arena full of ruthless combatants who would stop at nothing to claim victory. She couldn't afford to lose. Not for her pride, but for the life of the human she had sworn to save. The sound of a horn echoed through the arena, signaling the start of the tournament. Aria's heart pounded in her chest as the gates to the arena opened. Her first opponent, a tall and muscular alien with scales covering his body, stepped forward. His eyes gleamed with malice as he cracked his knuckles. This would be no easy fight. The crowd cheered as the match began, and Aria wasted no time. She darted forward, her swift movements catching her opponent off guard. The alien swung his massive fists, but Aria was faster. She ducked and weaved, narrowly avoiding each blow. The battle was fierce, the ground shaking with the impact of their strikes. Aria's training kicked in. She had fought countless battles before, but this was different. There was more at stake now than just her own survival. She needed to win, not only for herself but for the soldier she had saved. With a quick movement, Aria dodged another punch and countered with a strike to the alien side. He staggered, giving her the opening she needed. She moved in for the final blow, her fist connecting with his jaw in a swift and brutal strike. The alien crumpled to the ground, unconscious. The crowd erupted in cheers, but Aria didn't take the time to bask in her victory. She only had one thought on her mind: the soldier. She couldn't afford to waste time. The tournament was just beginning, and every fight would be harder than the last dot. As Aria left the arena, the weight of the situation pressed down on her. She had won this round, but there were still many more opponents to face. The tournament was filled with powerful beings, and she knew she would have to be at her best to survive. The alien leaders, watching from their elevated seats, seemed pleased with her performance. Their eyes were cold and calculating, watching her every move. They were not just interested in her strength, they were interested in her obedience. If Aria won the tournament, the human soldier would be hers to claim, but if she lost, the consequences would be dire. She could not allow herself to lose, not when so much was at stake. As Aria returned to her chambers, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The tournament felt like more than just a test of strength. There was a dark undertone to it all, an unspoken agenda that the alien leaders were keeping hidden. She didn't trust them, she didn't trust anyone here. And she couldn't afford to. The next round would be even harder, and Aria knew that she would have to fight with everything she had. The stakes were higher now, and every victory brought her one step closer to securing the soldier's life. But she also knew that the tournament was far from over, and there were many more challenges ahead. The real battle wasn't just about winning. It was about surviving long enough to find out the truth. What did the alien leaders want with the soldier? What was the prize they sought? And would Aria be able to protect him, or would she become another pawn in their dangerous game? As the night fell and Aria prepared for the next round, she couldn't help but feel the weight of her decision. The tournament had only just begun, but already the path ahead seemed uncertain, and the shadows grew longer with each passing moment. The arena was bathed in a harsh, flickering light as Aria stepped back into the center, her fur gleaming under the artificial sun. Her muscles ached from the battle the day before, but there was no time for rest. The next round had already begun. And her next opponent, a mysterious figure cloaked in dark, shimmering armor, awaited her in the center. The air around Aria seemed to hum with tension. The crowd's roars filled the space, but she barely heard them. Her thoughts were far away, on the human soldier still in the medical chamber, fighting for his life. She had promised him she would protect him, and now, each blow she struck, each step she took, was for him. But as she glanced across the arena, something strange caught her eye. The alien leaders, sitting high above the fighters, exchanged subtle glances. Their eyes locked onto her, but it was not with admiration or curiosity. It was something darker, something more calculating. Aria's instinct screamed that there was more to this tournament than she understood. The horn sounded, snapping her out of her thoughts. Her opponent, a creature with translucent skin and glowing red eyes, raised a long serrated spear, pointing it directly at her. It was an alien species she hadn't seen before, sleek, agile, and capable of moving faster than most fighters. This wouldn't be an easy battle. Aria quickly assessed her surroundings. The arena was vast, its floor uneven with jagged rocks and deep crevices. It was perfect for an ambush, and her opponent had the advantage of distance with his spear. But Aria was a master of agility. She could close the gap before he had a chance to strike. The crowd cheered as the fight began. The alien thrust his spear, aiming directly for Aria's heart, but she sidestepped the attack, her reflexes sharp and fast. She closed the distance in the blink of an eye, her hand gripping the hilt of her weapon, a sleek sword with a shimmering blade. She swung, but the creature danced backward, his glowing eyes never leaving her. This time, Aria didn't hesitate. She charged at him with everything she had. The alien twisted his spear in a wide arc, but Aria was ready. With a swift twist of her body, she dodged the strike and used her momentum to slam her shoulder into his chest, knocking him back. He staggered, his spear falling to the ground, leaving him defenseless for just a moment. She seized the opportunity. Her sword flashed, cutting through the air, and in a single clean motion, she disabled the alien, sending him to the ground unconscious. The crowd roared in approval, but once again, Aria barely heard them. Her mind was already on the next challenge, on the soldier, on the strange and ominous behavior of the alien leaders, and on the nagging feeling that something was very wrong. As Aria made her way out of the arena, the oppressive silence returned. The alien leader's gaze followed her every move, and she could feel the weight of their expectations bearing down on her. She knew she had to stay focused, but the questions kept swirling in her mind. What was the purpose of this tournament? Why had they chosen her, a warrior with no interest in glory, for such an event? And more importantly, why did they want the human soldier so badly? Aria knew she wasn't the only one with something to gain in this contest. There were whispers of alliances between the alien factions, secret deals, and power struggles behind the scenes. Some warriors were not here for the tournament's prize. They were here for something much more dangerous. The thought hit her suddenly. What if the soldier wasn't just a prize? What if he was part of the tournament's greater scheme? She remembered the strange words he had whispered before losing consciousness. Protect him. Could he have known something she didn't? That night, as Aria sat alone in her quarters, a messenger arrived. The leader of the tournament, a tall and imposing figure known as Azran, had requested her presence. Aria's heart skipped a beat. This wasn't just a simple message, it was a summons. Azran had always been a figure shrouded in mystery, but his reputation was known across the galaxy. He was the one who controlled the tournament, the one who made the final decisions. To be called upon by him was both an honor and a danger. Aria didn't hesitate. She left her quarters, her senses sharp, every muscle in her body alert. She had to know what Azran wanted, and she had to find out what he knew about the human soldier. as she walked through the dark corridors of the alien stronghold. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. The walls seemed too close in around her, the flickering lights casting long shadows. She couldn't help but wonder if this was more than just a tournament. What if she was being manipulated? What if, by saving the soldier, she had unwittingly become part of a much larger, more dangerous game? When Aria finally entered Azran's chambers, she was met with a cold silence. Azran stood with his back to her, staring out into the endless void of space. His voice was low, but it carried an undeniable weight. "You've done well, Captain Vulpine," he said, his tone even. "But this is only the beginning. The soldier you've saved, he's not just a man. He's something far more valuable than you can imagine." Aria's pulse quickened. The pieces were finally starting to fall into place. But now, more than ever, she had to choose which path to follow and whether the truth was worth the cost. Aria stood still, her heart racing as Azran's words echoed in her mind. "The soldier you've saved, he's not just a man." The cold silence in the chamber made her skin crawl, and a sense of dread settled deep in her chest. The truth, she realized, was far more complicated than she had imagined. Azran turned slowly, his dark eyes locking under hers with an unsettling intensity. He was a tall figure, draped in the ceremonial armor of the tournament's overseer. The faint hum of energy around his body seemed to amplify the power he exuded. It was clear that Azran was not just a leader. He was a force to be reckoned with. "The human you've saved," Azran began, his voice smooth yet chilling, "is not an ordinary soldier. He's part of a race long believed to be extinct, one that holds a unique power. A power that could shift the balance of this entire galaxy. And now you will fight for him, whether you understand the stakes or not." Aria's mind raced. The soldier, barely alive when she found him, was no ordinary human. The implications of Azran's words hit her like a hammer, each strike reverberating through her thoughts. She had thought of him only as a pawn in this deadly tournament. But now it seemed he was something far more valuable, a key to unimaginable power. Azran continued, his eyes never leaving her face. "We have kept the true nature of this tournament hidden, Captain Vulpine. The fighters here, like yourself, are not just battling for glory. You are fighting for control of this power, this human. The tournament has always been about dominance, and now that you've taken on this responsibility, you must be prepared to pay the price." Aria's breath caught in her throat. The price? What did that mean? She glanced at the door, wondering if she could escape this conversation, this dark truth, but something inside her held her in place. She had made a promise to protect the soldier. No matter what he was, she would not break that vow. "Do you understand now, Captain?" Azran asked, his voice softening for a brief moment, as if trying to gauge her reaction. "Every victory you claim brings you closer to the ultimate prize. But it also brings you closer to the truth you may not wish to know." Aria clenched, her fists fighting back the storm of emotions building within her. She had always been a warrior of honor. But now, that honor was being tested in ways she never could have anticipated. The truth was out there, hidden in the depths of this tournament. But was she ready to uncover it? And more importantly, could she stop it from destroying everything she cared about? Before she could respond, Azran turned his back again, his voice cold. "Return to the arena. Your next match awaits." Aria nodded stiffly. There was nothing more to be said. Azran had made his intentions clear. The tournament was no longer just a contest of strength. It had become something far darker, with far more at stake than she had ever imagined. As she made her way out of the chamber, the weight of Azran's words pressed heavily on her. She could no longer see the tournament as a mere fight for survival. She was caught in a game of power, and the stakes were higher than ever. The soldier, his life, his power was now the key to everything. And whether she liked it or not, she was part of that game, The journey back to the arena was a blur of thoughts and emotions. Aria couldn't shake the feeling that she was walking into a trap. Every warrior who had entered the tournament had their own reasons for being here, their own goals. But Aria's reason was different. She was fighting not for glory, not for power, but for the life of someone who couldn't fight for himself. When she stepped into the arena, the roar of the crowd was deafening, but Aria didn't hear them. Her focus was entirely on the challenge ahead. She didn't know what the next fight would bring, but she knew one thing for sure. This was no longer about winning. This was about uncovering the truth and saving the soldier, no matter the cost. Her opponent for this round was a towering alien, with black armored skin that shimmered in the light. He wielded a massive warhammer, the weapon's head glowing with lethal energy. The crowd loved him. He was a champion in his own right, feared across the galaxy for his power and skill. Aria's pulse quickened. She was tired. She had already fought 2 battles, each one leaving her more exhausted than the last. But there was no choice now. There was no room for doubt or hesitation. She had to keep fighting. The horn sounded, and the fight began. Her opponent swung the hammer down with terrifying speed, the ground cracking under its impact. Aria barely had time to roll out of the way, feeling the heat of the hammer's blow as it missed her by inches. She could feel the arena shift beneath her feet, the weight of the battle pressing down on her with every passing second. This alien was no slouch. He was powerful, relentless, and brutal. Aria moved with the precision and grace she was known for, darting around her opponent's attacks. Each swing of the hammer left the arena floor shaking, but Aria's agility allowed her to avoid each blow by mere seconds. It was a dangerous game of cat and mouse. Then, as the alien swung again, Aria saw her opening. She leapt forward, dodging under his swing and driving her blade into his side. The alien roared in pain, staggering back, but he wasn't finished yet. With a growl, he raised the hammer for a final, crushing blow. Aria's mind raced. This was it. The fight for the soldier's life was coming to a head. In a last, desperate move, she spun around, using her momentum to deliver a powerful, precise strike to his unprotected back. The alien crumpled to the ground with a loud crash. The crowd went wild as Aria stood victorious, her breath ragged, her body bruised and battered. But even as she raised her weapon in triumph, a part of her knew that the real fight had only just begun. The soldier's life hung in the balance, and the truth of the tournament still remained a mystery. The question now was no longer just about survival. It was about whether Aria could continue to fight for what was right in a world where everyone had a price. Aria stood at the edge of the arena, her heart pounding in her chest. She had defeated yet another opponent, but the sense of victory was fleeting. The weight of the situation was heavy on her shoulders, and the realization of what she was truly up against gnawed at her thoughts. Each victory brought her closer to the truth, but each battle was becoming harder to bear. The bloodshed, the cruelty, the lies, it was all starting to blur. And Aria knew she couldn't keep fighting like this forever. As the crowd's cheers faded into the background, Aria turned and walked toward the shadowed tunnels beneath the arena. She had won her latest match, but she knew there was more to this tournament than just survival. She was beginning to understand the true nature of the game, and the realization sent a chill down her spine. Azran's words still echoed in her mind, "The soldier you've saved. He's not just a man." The alien leaders, the ones who controlled the tournament, wanted something far more dangerous than just the power of a soldier. They were after a weapon, a source of unimaginable strength, something that, if unleashed, could change the entire galaxy. The soldier she had rescued, lying unconscious in the medical bay, was the key to it all. But she had no choice. She couldn't back down. The tournament's final round was coming, and there was no turning back now. In the quiet of the tunnels, Aria found herself alone, her thoughts racing, She needed answers. She needed to understand what exactly the alien leaders were after. What was so special about this human? And why did they want him so badly? Her instincts told her the soldier was far more than a pawn, but she couldn't piece together the mystery on her own. As if on cue, a figure appeared in the shadows ahead of her. Aria's hand went to her weapon instinctively, her muscles tensing. She had learned to trust no one in this place. But the figure stepped into the light, revealing a familiar face, one that sent a jolt of recognition through her. It was the human soldier. Aria's breath caught in her throat. He had been unconscious, too injured to move, and yet here he was, standing in front of her, his eyes now wide open. His clothes were still torn from the battle he had fought, but he was somehow stronger than she had last seen him. His expression was calm, almost serene, but there was a fire in his eyes, a knowledge that Aria couldn't quite place. "Captain Vulpine," the soldier said, his voice hoarse but clear. "I've been waiting for you." Aria took a step back, unsure of what to say. You shouldn't be out here. You're injured." "I'm fine," he interrupted, his tone firm. "I'm not what you think I am." Aria frowned, trying to make sense of what was happening. "What do you mean?" The soldier took a deep breath, looking around as if to make sure they were alone. "I've been part of something far bigger than I understood. And now it's all catching up to me." Aria's heart raced. "What do you mean? What is going on here?" The soldier glanced down at his hands, his fingers trembling slightly. "I was part of a military experiment, designed to unlock something hidden deep within my DNA, something that could change the course of the galaxy. The people running the experiment didn't know what they were doing, and neither did I, but now they've found me. They want to use what I have for their own gain." The words hit Aria like a punch to the gut. The soldier wasn't just a victim of war or circumstance. He was a weapon, an incredibly dangerous one. His body contained the power that Azran and the other leaders craved. "This tournament, double quotes," Aria began, her mind spinning. "It's not just about glory, it's about you. They're using you as a prize to get what they want." The soldier nodded solemnly. "Yes, they've been watching me, waiting for me to recover, so they can harness my abilities. They want to use my power to tip the scales in their favor, control everything, everywhere. I never asked for this, Captain. But now I need your help." Aria's thoughts raced. She had been fighting not just to protect a soldier, but to protect the galaxy from the power that he unknowingly carried. The tournament, the alien leaders, everything had been a setup. They had used her, used everyone in the arena, to fight for the most dangerous prize in the universe. "You can't let them have me," the soldier said, his voice urgent. "They'll use my abilities for destruction. I can't stop them alone. But together, we might have a chance." Aria's heart swelled with determination. She had come this far, fought this hard, and she wasn't about to let the soldier fall into the wrong hands. The time for playing their game was over. She had made her choice. "Then we fight together," Aria said firmly, her voice unwavering. The soldier's eyes softened with gratitude. "Thank you." But Aria's mind was already shifting. She knew the final battle awaited them both. Azran, the alien leaders, and the entire galaxy were counting on the tournament to decide its future. But Aria and the soldier had one more fight to win. They had to stop the tournament from continuing, stop the alien leaders from using the soldier's power for their own gain. And as they prepared to face their final challenge, one thing was certain. This was no longer just about survival. This was about preventing the universe from falling into the hands of those who sought to control it. It was about saving the soldier, and with him, saving the galaxy from the unimaginable power that was now in their grasp. The final round was upon them, and Aria was ready. She had made her choice. Now she would fight not just for herself, but for everything she believed in. Together, they would face the storm. The arena had never felt so oppressive. The air was thick with tension, and the crowd was on edge, eager for the final battle to unfold. The final round was approaching, and Aria stood at the edge of the arena, her weapon in hand, her mind focused on the task ahead. The soldier, now standing beside her, was no longer the broken, helpless man she had found in the desolate wasteland. He had regained his strength, but the power inside him was something far more dangerous than Aria had ever imagined. Azran, along with the other alien leaders, watched from their elevated seats. Their eyes glinted with anticipation, their cold expressions betraying no emotion as they observed the final contestants. To them, this was a game. But for Aria, it was everything. The soldier, his face a mask of determination, glanced at her. "We can stop them, Captain, together." Aria nodded, her grip tightening on her sword. "This isn't just about winning anymore. It's about stopping them from using your power for destruction." The horn sounded, signaling the start of the final round. But this time, there was no opponent across from Aria. This time, it was different. The arena began to shift, the ground trembling beneath her feet as the alien leaders activated the final stage of the tournament. Before she could react, a massive, imposing figure appeared in the center of the arena. It was a hybrid part machine, part alien, a towering creation designed for one purpose: to ensure that no one could leave the tournament alive if the alien leaders didn't get what they wanted. It was the ultimate weapon, a terrifying fusion of alien technology and biological engineering. Its eyes glowed a menacing red, and it had the strength of a dozen warriors combined. The crowd went wild, cheering at the spectacle, unaware of the danger it posed. Aria's heart skipped a beat, but she quickly regained her composure. This wasn't just a fight to the death anymore. This was a fight to save everything. The hybrid charged at them, moving with terrifying speed. Its metal fists swung like hammers, creating shockwaves in the air as it closed the distance between them. Aria's instincts kicked in, and she dodged to the side, narrowly avoiding the blow. The soldier, standing beside her, was ready. He stepped forward, his eyes burning with an intensity that was almost otherworldly. "You have to trust me," the soldier said, his voice steady. "Stay close. I'll protect you." Before Aria could respond, the soldier reached out with both hands, his body glowing with a strange energy. The air around him seemed to warp and distort as his latent power surged to life. The hybrid paused for a moment, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. Then, without warning, the soldier raised his hands, sending a shockwave of energy directly at the creature. The impact was like a thunderclap, the blast of power sending the hybrid flying backward. But it didn't stay down for long. The machine regained its footing, its glowing eyes now filled with a furious red light. It roared, a sound that shook the very foundation of the arena. Aria's mind raced. She had seen power before, but this was something beyond comprehension. The soldier was a weapon, yes, but he was also something else. He was a protector, someone who wanted to stop the very forces that sought to use him. And Aria would stand beside him, no matter the cost. The hybrid lunged again, but this time Aria was ready. She darted forward, her blade flashing through the air as she struck at its exposed joints. Sparks flew, but the hybrid's armor was almost impenetrable. The soldier, still glowing with energy, joined the fray. Together, they fought as one, a deadly dance between the fury of a soldier's will and the raw power of a warrior's strength. As they fought, Aria realized that the tournament, the battles, the pain, it had all been leading to this moment. This was no longer about victory in the arena. This was about stopping the alien leaders from unleashing a force that could destroy everything. With one final coordinated strike, Aria leapt into the air, her sword aimed directly at the hybrids core. At the same moment, the soldier released the full extent of his energy, A blinding burst of power that struck the hybrid with devastating force. The explosion rocked the arena. The hybrid, overwhelmed by the combined might of Aria and the soldier, collapsed to the ground in a heap of twisted metal and shattered armor. For a long moment, there was silence. Then the crowd erupted in deafening cheers, but Aria barely heard them. She was focused on the soldier who stood beside her, his energy fading but his expression filled with resolve. It was over. The hybrid was defeated, but the true battle was won. Azran and the alien leaders, watching from above, exchanged glances. They had underestimated the soldier, and now they were powerless to stop what had already been set in motion. Aria, standing tall with the soldier by her side, had done what no one thought possible. She had not just fought for survival. She had fought for freedom. Azran's voice rang out, cold and calculating. "You've won, Captain Vulpine. But understand this tournament was only one part of a much larger plan. You have disrupted something far bigger than you realize." Aria's eyes narrowed. She didn't flinch. "Then we'll fight that too, but not today. Today we've won. And today we've stopped you." As Azran's gaze hardened, Aria turned to the soldier, a quiet strength in her expression. Together, they had brought an end to the tournament. Together, they had stopped a dangerous power from falling into the wrong hands. The soldier, now free from the tournament's cruel grasp, gave a small but meaningful smile. "Thank you, Captain." Aria nodded, her resolve unwavering. "This isn't over, but we've taken the first step. And that's enough for now." As the two of them walked off the arena floor, the crowd's cheers still echoed in their ears. But for Aria and the soldier, the real battle had just begun. The galaxy was a vast and dangerous place, and they had made their stand. But together, they knew they could face whatever came next. The end of one fight was merely the beginning of another, and they would fight forever side by side.